Josh from Galaxy Shores, and we have another breakdown, this time of Another Day. So this song was actually one of the first ones that I started writing down lyrics for. The idea for Galaxy Shores sort of came about during the initial quarantine period, summer 2020. Um, and this song was sort of just like born out of the feelings that I was sort of experiencing during that time. My brother and I were having all these really cool conversations every night about like, oh, how cool would it be to like, form a band and go play shows and do all this cool stuff. And then, we'd wake up and play video games again or do whatever, and I just sort of had this like nagging feeling like, oh god, like, it just feels like I'm going nowhere. And so I was just sort of writing down just my thoughts, and then that's is sort of where that came from. So yeah, let's dive in. So this song sort of is cut into two sections, so we'll just go section by section. So the first part, the drums, this was another one of those ones that was initially MIDI, so it just has a much more regimented beat to it. Let's solo those first. And that was just because it was me, playing it on a just like a drum pad first, and then going back and copying it later. And so, mix wise, it's the, sort of the usual stuff, same analog EQ, analog compressor, waves. And then I just tried to make it so they sit, a little bit back in the mix. There's a couple different reverbs on it actually. One of them was for, depth, and then one of them was more for just like a room kind of a feel. So then there's also the occasional part where there will be a little flanger on the drums, which I love, but other than that, it's pretty standard in this little section here. As far as like any sort of a synth keys go, we have this main piano progression here, and it's really only two chords, minus some like little changes to them, but it's a very simple progression. But this is just an Ableton preset that I was playing around with. So I do like the way that sounds. I used an Abbey Road saturator from Waves, which just gives it a really nice analog, kind of a room tone to it. Just, little Valhalla verb on there, of course, just to all sort of feed that sound, make it sound a little more natural. I didn't want it to sound like a digital MIDI piano as much as possible. And then we also have this pad that comes in partway through, which is this guy right here. Which initially was actually a lot more stringy. I put a phaser and a chorus on it, but it used to sound like this. And then you add in these sounds, and it makes it just a little more spaced out, which is sort of the goal. And that's sort of what we have synth-wise as far as rhythm synths in this first little section. But as far as leads go, we have this sort of the opening verse has the plucks going on one side, and then the this sort of a glide on the other side here. And so if you couple that with this, which actually this is to date, unfortunately, the only song so far to use the Pro 1. After I recorded this audio, it just started getting a little buggy on me, and so I still got to take it in. But this was, there's no MIDI on this. It can't convert anything to MIDI, so I couldn't program anything. I had to just like sit there and pluck in time for however many measures. But the sound, I was able to sort of turn some knobs and got a pretty cool little sound. So if you couple that, So I just, adds a little bit of movement in there. And then later we have sort of this, solo, which I think this is sort of once I recorded this, I was like, ooh, okay, I kind of like the vibe of this overall. It just has a really, really melancholy, just kind of like you're, walking down the same street you always do, and it's a nice day outside, but you should be doing this other stuff, and it's just like, you know what, here I am again. But at the same time, it has this sort of pleasant tone to it. So I enjoy that. The plucks from the Pro 1 come back, and then as we get to the will I control my absent mind or will I float away, I actually had a friend who I was like, sending a mix to just to get an opinion, and she was like, what if when it said, or will I float away, if there was just this floating feeling? And I was like, oh, okay, how could we do that? So I just, I put like a bandpass spinner on the drums, and I was able to then put this little flutter, which was just, I played with the LFO on the Pro 1. And this was actually a longer clip. It went up to about there, and so I took it and I just like flipped it and put it here. So then everything sort of like, I don't know, spirals downwards, kind of as the song goes. Kind of has a, I don't know, kind of a sci-fi sound to it. But yeah, so that's as far as synths go. That's what we have sort of in this first little section here. And if we go down to the guitars, it's all. I mean, the guitars are relatively simple here. We have sort of this opener, and it was all, pretty much the same, except I would just like add a flange pedal in at some point. So we just have sort of our main, guitar chords. And then, I would add in, I add the flange in later. So yeah, just the guitars I wanted to just sound very, very easy. They're not, really trying to stand out. They just sort of, glide along with everything else. And as far as, I think that's sort of, where the first section, that's all there really is in regards to, instrumentation. The bass is honestly kind of the same throughout. It's just, the normal bass. But we have, again, the same EQ compressor on there. Which are just sort of those just staples that I use on almost everything to just give it, a feeling of analog a little bit. So it's just, I enjoy the the bass line. And that was just honestly me sort of like tooling around and winging it, but it turned out. And so now we move on sort of to the second section of the song. So, we have, as far as, drums to start, the drums are much more free form on this because I sort of just, this initially was just going to have a couple chords and then go back to this chorus section, but I just could never make that fit. And then once I realized that could I be more vocals lined up with the chord progression that I found, then I was able to just sort of extend it. So that was cool. So we have, the drums on this, you could see, took me forever. This is like, take 13. And then I just kept playing around with different ideas and different concepts. And like, I initially wanted to have like a sort of a on the hi-hats, but not good enough for that. So we had to sort of just, try different stuff. So we go from 13 here to take like 85 here, which, what are you going to do? I have a little snare delay that I just basically copy and pasted the snares and put like a, phaser, or no, I put like a delay, and then I have a space modulator thing from Valhalla. I have a flanger, and so it just has this really, really washed out. Which if you put it with the drums. add some depth. But yeah, so as far as synths, we have really just one main chord progression, and it was just this really, really neat serum patch that I just found a preset, and then I just, you know, tweaked it to my own liking. There's a lot of panning going on. Like these both are like, I put an LFO on the panning here, so it just sort of everything is sort of shifting and moving around at different speeds just to give it a lot of movements, very hazy. And that's really all we have as far as rhythm. But if we go into leads, we have some really cool stuff here. Probably the thing that I'm proud of most actually in this entire song is this arpeggiator, because it moves right to left, but it moves at a rate that's just like free. It's not synced up to anything. So I had to individually go in and draw all of these right to left motions with the panning, and just to do these two chords, because that's all I had to do, because once I could do that I could just copy it, but these two chords took me probably 2.5 hours, but I mean it turned out. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed those a lot. And then down here is just, you know, turning knobs as they go to just give it a little, you know, movement and stuff like that. We also have this sort of like a, you know, another version of the sort of the sine wave solo from the beginning, but it actually sort of floats around. I just automated it to sort of float around as the solo goes. Oh, nope. So you can sort of hear just like this little point of light almost moving back and forth. And then we have this little, sort of like a, you know, it says, I called it a wow wow synth lead because it just sort of has that sound to it. And then this wasn't programmed either. I was just sort of, you know, plucking along, listening to it. And then we actually have the only glide lead from the Pro 1 in any song, which I really want to put in more, and I'm going to. But it just has this, you know, really beautiful tone to it that I really like. And a cool thing about it is I don't actually know, like, you know, I was just turning knobs until I got a sound that I liked, but for whatever reason, when I let go of the keys on here, it like decays in a really fun way. So like you can hear when I let go of it. So, you know, that was fun to just sort of put in there. And it just really gives, it sort of adds to this like sort of cascading wave kind of feeling as we get to the outro. And then, you know, the bass or guitar on here was just a little more, I guess, liquidy sounding. It was just, I added a couple more pedals in, a couple more effects. Yeah, so there's that, there's the guitars. And then we have, so for vocals, the vocals on this is really the only song that I really went like, not harmony heavy, but I really like, you know, did a lot of harmony work on. And it's all very like segmented out just because I don't really know what I'm doing, so I just break everything up to give myself the illusion of control. But yeah, so we have, you know, the first, you know, vocals sort of open up. I go to sleep with aspiration, see my future as I close my eyes. And then we get harmonies. Crystal clear, an extraordinary life. And there's actually a different delay on the harmony than the main vocal, just to give it sort of a, I don't know, a washed, different feel. I wake up. So yeah, it's definitely, I really like the harmonies on this, and the delay, like the verse delay is different than the harmony delay, just sort of give it a, you know, trippier kind of a feel. And then, you know, once I did the Could I Be Mores, I was able to just sort of stack the harmonies on top of each other. So I just took this one and, you know, pasted it through, and then was able to just slowly add harmonies as it went along. Could I be more? Could I be it just has this, question, because I did, at the time I didn't fully know, and it's just sort of, could I be more? Like, could more happen than is happening right now? So yeah, I mean, that's the vocals. There's definitely there's a lot more layers than there actually is complexity. It's just me not fully understanding how to, I guess, track everything the right way. And all this is just others, really, it's right here. So I layer everything as every time I want to do something else, I just I'll just make a new layer and I'll just try something else there. So yeah, we'll play sort of the end section here, and we'll be gone. Okay, there's something fun. So, fun fact, for whatever reason, Serum would make these ARPs go an octave higher on just randomly. And so I have to just try to save a WAV file where they were in the right octave, and I ended up doing it for the song. But yeah, I'll play this and we'll get out of here.